Hello everyone, welcome to today's topic. We are going to cover on cost accounting in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. We are going to allocate a cost of the salary from one cost center or a default cost center to two different another cost centers. So we are also going to use a cost behavior policy and the cost distribution policy. So for that, you should be knowing what is an overhead cost. So basically, this is an indirect expense which is required for any business to generate because they have to perform on day-to-day activities. And some of the very important overhead expense are like a rent, insurance, and admin salary, etc. So for an overhead cost calculation, we have the basis is an allocation base and the policy. In the allocation base, we have a three different allocation bases are there, like a predefined dimension member allocation base. We have hierarchy and a formula. When it comes to cost accounting policies, there are cost behavior policy, cost distribution policy, overhead rate calculation, cost allocation policy, and we do have a roll-up policy which goes with the cost allocation policy. So today topic will be on the predefined dimension member allocation base, and we are going to cover the cost behavior and the cost distribution. So moving on further, there are some of the important terms which should be aware about the cost behavior policy and distribution is that this policy will help you to classify the cost as per a fixed and a variable. So, in today's example, if I say that I want to classify entire salary expense as a fixed, this can be done. Or maybe if you want to classify as per 60, 40, or 50, it is up to you. You can create that rule. Once it is done, then we will go with the distribution policy. In the distribution policy, we are going to distribute a cost from one cost center to a respective cost centers. So we can look into the configuration requirement. We will go further into the system and then see. So we have to see the cost element dimension. In the cost element dimension, I will use the cost element and then I will go and view the dimension member. You can view the dimension member and you can see if the accounts which you are going to use is available or not. Just cross verify that. So in today's example, I am going to use an account which is 600 to 50. So I'll just check that once and I see it is available. So likewise, you can do the same for the cost object dimension as well, which you are going to use it. I'll be using the cost center cost object dimension. You can view the dimension members and there you can see that I actually going to use this 007 and ninth and 10th. So these are also available. So if everything is fine, then you can also look into the statistical dimension as well. I'll be using the statistical element so you can again view the dimension member here. I will use the salary and then I can see the salary in the percent is available. Now I'll move on to the cost accounting ledger and I will do the basic setup needed here, which is mandatory. So I'll be using the overhead calculation April 18. This is which I'm going to use it now. I can see the cost element dimension which we have seen just now is there, and then a statistical element, and you are supposed to also select the calendar and the currency and exchange rate type as well. Our example for today's training, what we are going to do that suppose there is a salary of an employee which is a salary manufacturing which is paid from the trade show, so and which is 21,000, and later I want to distribute this 21,000 to two different cost center. So this is my requirement which I am going to do in the system now. So for that, the journal, what you can do that you can pass a journal using this 600 to 50 account. So I'll go to general journal and I'll create a new, go to lines. I'll just use the account number which I'm going to use it, and I will say 21,000 is the amount. I'm just picking any random account. In this, in spite of 007, you can use your default cost center. So once this journal is passed in the GL, so you can just validate and you can post it. It is up to you. So this journal is getting posted. Now come to the cost accounting ledger where you are there in the control unit, and you can see that you are supposed to create one of the cost control unit. For me, I have created cost center. So you can just view that no entries will be appearing here once it is passed here. So I'll go back, and this journal is actually passed in the GL module in the general journal, right? And my outcome, what I'm expecting, that whatever journal I have passed in 007 cost center, I'm going to allocate this 20,000 to 009 and 010 cost centers. Remember one thing, as I said, that I am not changing an account. What I am doing, that I am distributing the cost to different cost centers. This is what we call it as a cost distribution. Okay. So verify the cost element and dimension, which is done. We have done the posting of the journal now. Okay. In this example, what I have done, that I have used the DMF and I have uploaded the statistical measure. So if you see here, imported a statistical measure, you can use a data management framework and you can import it. So I have given 50% to the cost center 10 and 50% to the cost center 009. You have to keep in mind that accounting date is something which always give like end of the month. Okay, and then because you do the process by giving the month end date. So once these all are done in the system, which you can see we have seen just now. Okay, and then you can come to the cost accounting ledger. You have seen this as well. You have done with the cost control unit as well. Now I am going to bring the data that is posted in the GL here. So I will go to the actual version and I'll click on manage. Once I click on manage, this is a data source. So the data source for the GL, I would pick, there are three options for the data provided, which you can see here. So I have picked the D365 Finance and Operation GL data. And likewise, you can click on the configure data provider. And then you can see that I have picked the legal entity and the layer. So this is how the data from the GL will flow here. The same you are going to do for the statistical measure as well. In the statistical measure, I have like salary in percentage, and then I can see that this is a imported statistical measure which we have. And as I told you that I have like imported the measure, and you can see here the salary percent. You can give the sum and the cost center. So these option, make sure you are providing it there, and then click on the OK. So once the basic setups are done, now moving on here, what I'm doing, that I'm verifying the data source. I'm done with the verification and everything looks fine. The same thing is appearing here. Now we are going to process the data. So to process the data, what you do, that you can come back and you can click on source data processing. Now you're going to process the GL. So once you click on process GL, make sure that your selection is correct for the period as well. Click on OK. You can see it is done. We will also perform for the statistical measure and click on OK. Now the data has been processed. Once the data has processed, what you can do, that you can click on all processing journals, or maybe you can click on the GL entry transfer journal. So once you click on the GL entry transfer journal, you can see as on today's date there is a one journal which has been transferred, and the data source is USMF data source, which we have picked while providing the data source provider. So this journal, click on the journal entry, and then you can this is a journal entry which we have done, and you can click on the cost entry, and we says that The cost behavior is unclassified. You can also view the statistical entry. Go back and you can view the statistical entry from here. One entry here which you can see 988. Click on the journal entry, and what you can see here is that there is a magnitude of 50/50 which is in percentage, and then we can see it is going to be allocated to 009 and 0010 cost center. So once this is done, you have an option to view the allocation base output. What you can do that to see the allocation base, you can come to predefined dimension member allocation base, and as you know that the salary is the dimension member allocation base for me, and click on the preview. Cost accounting ledger is source version overhead calculation, and then make sure that your selection for the period is correct. Click on OK, and what you see that in 009 50 magnitude and 50 in 010 it has been getting allocated. So this is how you can preview the allocation base. Once you have viewed the allocation base, what you can do that you can proceed to see the cost behavior policy now. So in the cost behavior policy, you have to define or you have to select the cost element and the cost object. So go back here, and in a policy, cost behavior policy, you can go there. Behavior policy, you are supposed to see the cost element dimension hierarchy which you are going to see, and the cost object dimension hierarchy. So from that what you can see, suppose when I come to the cost element dimension hierarchy, in the dimension hierarchy, when I'm in the cost behavior, in the dimension hierarchy, and when I see the hierarchy, I can see that the cost behavior in this is said that any transaction which falls in the dimension member this range, that is actually defined as a fixed. So this is a node name. So what we do when we define the cost behavior policy, so what we do that when my selection is in cost behavior dimension hierarchy in cost element, I will pick the node as a fixed, and then I say that my cost object dimension is an organization, 100% amount should be fixed. So once the cost behavior policy is set up, you are supposed to allocate to the policy assignment to the cost control unit. So this is very important. Until you assign, you will not be able to perform this cost policy. So I'll just go back. Then we have cost distribution policy. So when I come to cost distribution policy, this is where I define that how it should be allocated. So I say that when I am picking an cost object dimension hierarchy, which is an organization, and the cost element is CDSPL for me, so which is picking the account, and the cost behavior is fixed. The allocation base is to be salary. So which you say that you already define in the cost behavior that 100% of the amount of this account should be as a fixed. So above that you are saying that apply an allocation based salary which you have seen that 50% to each cost center. Now moving on further, this also should be assigned to the cost control unit. Once this is done, you are supposed to run an overhead calculation. So come to cost accounting ledger, select the cost accounting ledger, and then click on the actual version, and then click on the period calculation and run an overhead calculation, and make sure that your selection of the period is correct and click on OK. So the overhead calculation is run. So once overhead calculation is run, you actually can go and review that. So to view the overhead calculation entries, click on the period calculation, and then what you can do that if you want you can go from this all calculation journal, but I'll go with the last calculation journal. So I can see that there are three journals. However, allocation I will not be covering at this moment. We will cover on the cost behavior and the cost distribution journal. So this is what it says, that once you review the journal, there will be a two journals appearing, cost behavior and the cost distribution journal. What you can do that you can select the journal entry, like I'll go there and click on the journal entries. You can see here I have 600 to 50, where 42,000 one is previous entry, another is today's entry. So I'll just go and click on the cost entries, and then I can see that there is a journal which is unclassified. Okay, so this is what entry we have it now. What it has done, that it has moved the balance of this entry and it has made it as a minus, and then the classification is that the entire amount, which is 100%, has been classified as a fixed cost. So this is what entry we got it now. Go back here to cost distribution policy, click on this and click on the journal entry, where you can see that this transaction, click on the cost entries. The 42,000 amount has been allocated, which is from a 007 to 009 and 00010. So you can see here, this is how the cost allocation happened from one cost center to another cost center. So we have met the target of transfer the salary expense.